from the people on the line. There we go. Let's
Okay,
first.
we got one. All right. So yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Alassane, and of course, I have Roja here again on the call today. Welcome, Joshua. Welcome, Obili. Welcome, Stephen. UTB, welcome, and every other person that's going to join after now. So again, this is a group mentorship session, and the purpose of this meeting is literally to have our questions literally being answered by our mentors. Today we have Roja on the call, and he's going to be doing the justice to that, just like he usually do. And luckily, we have the first question to kickstart the call today, right here, coming from the western part of Nigeria. That is from Itibe Omare. So Itibe is asking the question. The question goes this way: how would you recommend going about alpha testing for a new product? What should you be testing for, literally?
Yeah, so Atiba, I'll take a quick stab at a very high level, and then if you want to give some more context, I can answer it more specifically. But normally, when you want to start testing something, you want to test whether it's worth exploring. You want to test the core hypothesis or the core assumption of, if we build this, will people want it, or is this possibly? You probably have an idea of a problem that people might have and you have a feature or something you could build to solve that problem. And the alpha test is just to kind of gauge, is this way we're approaching the solution more or less aligned with actually solving that problem? And so that's kind of where the tension, where what you need to test with that alpha version. It's not for beta, you're trying to test out like the features and monetization and a bunch of other things before you actually turn it on. But with alpha, you're just looking for very early signals of, are you on the right track? So are you more or less testing, like is this more or less a direction worth exploring? And so that's what an alpha product is generally testing of. Is there kind of interest in this? Is this something we should invest a bit further behind? And so that would be the generally for an alpha. Then once you've got positive feedback on that, or feedback on why it's wrong, or what would be a better fit, you then take that feedback, you build it up into something slightly more robust, which isn't quite the fully fledged end product, but is the core value proposition that fundamentally solves the problem, even though it's a little rough around the edges. And then that would be your beta version. So typically that's how I would think about an alpha is just, are we in the right direction? And a beta is, like, other than a bit of polish, is this basically solving the problem? And those are kind of what you want to test in those iterations. Does that help you? Do you want to give some more context on what exactly you're testing, and we can go a bit deeper on that?
Okay, sure. So it's a product that's already been built. So at this point, I feel like a lot of the features have been set, and then they realize, okay, there's a need for a product manager. Let's test what we have. And so for testing, we were considering starting with like alpha testing in the context that it is internal in-house testing, making sure that I guess the systems operate properly and everything that is expected, how the product's expected to work actually works before we open up to external users to test.
Are the internal stakeholders representative of your end customers?
Not fully.
Okay, so you're basically just doing QA, internal QA.
Exactly.
Right. Cool. So they're going to test, is the features working as I would expect it to work? But it doesn't test, is this actually useful?
Mm-hmm.
So I would recommend setting up a couple of calls with some customers or potential customers, and to do alpha, like a user interview or a use case testing, where you either bring them into your office where you can watch them, or you, like with screen sharing, you can dial in and then send them a link and have them click through and ask them a bunch of questions as they move through the journey, performing certain tasks, getting feedback on where are they stuck, why are they stuck. So kind of watching people use it. So I would, if you've got something more fully fledged, it definitely doesn't sound like an alpha test. I wouldn't call it that if that's not what you're testing. But you can turn it into full-blown user testing to say, well, let's pick a couple of customers, let's bring them in, let's watch them use it, and let's take the feedback on what's working, what's not working. Because somebody who doesn't actually understand that problem, who isn't your customer, so an internal tester or somebody in another department, they're going to be able to test, like, does this form work the way I would expect it to? But they're not going to test whether this form should even be there or whether these fields are the right fields on the form. And that's kind of what you need to get the feedback on before you apply too much polish, right?
That makes sense. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I'll get it in front of customers as soon as possible, like even in a closed environment that they're not kind of working in. So bring it in, give them a link that they can log into, or share your screen and have them talk you through it, like where would they want to go, when you see the screen, what do you think, what are you trying to achieve, and just let them talk and kind of ask these very open-ended questions. The very difficult thing that you have normally when the product is too far along is you get too specific with your questions, and it's not open-ended enough. So you kind of want to ideally give them the product and let them struggle with it a bit. And so you want to watch where they keep stubbing their toe, or hey, they're trying to achieve this and they keep clicking on that button, but that doesn't get you there. That's what you're trying to learn as quickly as possible. Cool. Cool. Alessandro, are you there? Cool. Not sure where Alessandro is. I was trying to unmute. But hey, guys, that was the first question. Any other questions? Feel free to throw them in the chat or raise your hand and ask them directly. This is your time. We're here to help.
Rita, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Hi.
Oh, sorry. I was trying to unmute myself. Yeah, I was struggling to do that. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, I think you already said it. So, is there anybody on the call who have a question to ask Roger directly? I mean, we are lucky not to have a lot of questions today. So, if you want to, I mean, this is your time. I mean, right on the call to ask your question, anybody at all. And while we are waiting for that actually. But Roger, I want to ask, maybe while that is going on, should we attend to the question on the Google Sheets? Or
can do. Yep.
Okay. So let me just, I think you have the question already, but I'll just copy it and I'll paste it here on channel for you so that you can see also. But I think we have Oyindamola. So Oyindamola, please, you can go ahead. I'll drop the question here. Oyindamola, please go ahead. Oyindamola, are you there? Hello? Maybe Oyin's network is frozen. Okay, Mamu Yowi, we are coming back to Oyin. Mamu Yowi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay,
Hi,
okay, yeah, yeah. Hi.
Yeah,
Okay,
hi.
I'm fine, thank you.
Yeah. My question is, in trying to think through from company's vision, right, to product delivery.
Yep.
I'm seeing it in this order. The product, company's vision, the product strategy, product discovery, and then product delivery. Right. In following this first step, is there anything that you think I am missing out? If I mean the company vision or the product vision, product strategy, product discovery, and then product delivery. If I think of product or coming up with a new product in this order, is there anything I'm missing out?
No, I mean, I think that's generally correct. It's just those are quite high level. The way I like to think about it is like this. Sorry, I'll just make this a little smaller. It's not so tiny for you. So this is I'll drop the link here in the chat. This is kind of a template that I've used just to map that out. So it starts with the vision, which is like, what is the world you imagine? The mission is, what do you need to be in order to create that world? Like, what are the actions? So the vision is, imagine a world where everyone has access to the highest quality healthcare. The mission is to create quality AI or quality healthcare advice delivered via AI and self-testing pods. The dragon to slay is, what wrong are you making right in today's world? So what do you need to overcome in order to be successful at that mission? So we need to overcome the access to technology. We need to overcome the reliance of or the reliability of AI recommendations, and we need to overcome the hardware of testing and reliability of self-testing where you don't have a doctor prescribing for you. Great, those are the dragons we need to change. Like those are the things that are broken in today's world that is stopping our mission from being real. And then the master plan is what are the steps you're going to follow. So your product strategy or whatever the steps you're going to follow to execute that. These are normally the high-level inflection points of a business strategy, which then translates into a product strategy. And so Tesla's one is probably the textbook example that I use for this, which was around like create a super expensive roadster, use the funding from that to build a more entry level or a $75,000 car, $50,000 car, and through that build out the battery tech, build out the charging station network, and eventually launch entry level $35,000 Tesla for the masses. That was kind of like the inflection point in the business strategy of how it runs through. So your product strategy is really at each of those inflection points. What is it that you need to build, have, and release in order to deliver on that next inflection point in your master plan and your business strategy? And so that kind of becomes the 6-month goals, which is, so this is your business strategy, this is your product strategy, and then this is the area that you need to get right in order for this to be successful. So what is the focus area of the business that you're prioritizing over everything else? Is it market expansion? Is it cost optimization? Is it international expansion? Is it like just getting revenue, getting our first paying customers, like whatever that is, that you'll compromise on everything else, but that's the thing you need to get right. And so that kind of summarizes it in my level. But I mean, the 4 that you mentioned there is very much in line with this. They just call slightly different things. There isn't necessarily a right thing. I'd say the devil is more in the details and more in the relationship on how the one stacks onto each other. Ravi Mehta, sorry, it's not searching. Meta product stack. Stack. Let's see if I can get this quickly. There we go. Product strategy stack. This is a similar guy. Ravi Mehta is interviewed by thing, but basically looking at this. Sorry, it's going to be better to. How do I? So yeah, he's got a whole blog post on it, but this is basically the thing. So you have the vision/mission, company strategy, product roadmaps, and product goals. So you define your vision and your mission. That then defines your company strategy is how you're going to achieve that. The product strategy is what you need in order to deliver on that company strategy. The product roadmap is what you're going to release in order to achieve that strategy. And the product goals are how you're going to measure whether that's working. And so you define, each one is defined by the layer above it, but the evaluation of like whether your roadmap is being effective is measured by your goals. Whether your strategy is effective is whether you're hitting your roadmap. Whether your company strategy is effective is because whether you're achieving your product strategy successfully. So that's kind of the order of how you need to do it, the product strategy stack. I'll throw this blog post in here, which is where he covers it all. I'll throw it in the chat. But yeah, those are that's kind of my go-to when it comes to like product strategy stack and how the product strategy ties into the business strategy, those sort of things.
Yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, thanks.
But yeah, not different or wrong to what yours is. It's just don't get too caught up in the words and more caught up in the process.
Yeah, thanks. Makes sense.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Mamuyowi. Thank you, Roger. And I think I'll move to the next person. Okay, I think she's not raising up her hand again. Oyindamola, then you can go ahead now. Oyindamola, if you are speaking, you are muted. So I think you have to unmute yourself.
I think you are unmuted, but we're not hearing you.
Yeah, we can't hear her, and she's not muted. Okay. When your network is back up, you can, indicate to speak again, then we'll allow you to speak. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining the call one more time. And of course, if you have a question that you've been wanting to ask Roger all this while, this is the time to ask. Please, let's have your question. You can either indicate by using the hand icon, or drop your question in the comment section, or of course you can also use the activity icon to navigate the question and answer session, where you will be able to drop your questions either anonymously or not. Okay, Odera, we have you. Please go ahead with your question.
Yeah, hi everyone, good evening. So this is my question is, so I'm moving from I'm I'm transitioning between industries, right? From the logistics space into the fintech space. And then I'm trying to work on something like a strategy and a roadmap. I think my question is, maybe how do I go about it technically, seeing that this is a new industry? Maybe that's number one. And then number two, just from your experience working, how does the crypto, I'm being very specific right now, how does the crypto market in terms of products, like what's your perspective on it? I'd like to know that. I don't know if, yeah.
Okay. So were you in product in the logistics space?
Yes, I was. Yes, I was.
Okay, cool. Okay, so you're not switching into product. Okay. So a lot of the same principles are true. When you're trying to craft a strategy, or you're trying to think about what it looks like, you need to think like, what needs to be true for us to win, or how do we what is our differentiator as a company organization in this space? Like, what are we doing differently to what everybody else is, and why is that useful? And once you can answer those questions, you start unpacking the core principles of what you need to be in order to be successful. So we need to have achieved these things. And so typically when you're looking at how you might structure that, the strategy is sort of, those questions are pretty unique, are pretty consistent. Whether you're in logistics, there will be an edge of why your approach will set you apart from all the competitors, or why you solve the problem that other competitors can't. And when you're thinking about fintech, you need to think about the same space, the same types of questions. The answers will obviously be very different. So if you're thinking about, it sounds like you're in the crypto fintech space, which is also there's a subgenre of that, of why crypto? Why does crypto help me do this fintech thing better than traditional fintech? What's the advantages of crypto? What's our unfair advantage? How do we lean into that? And how do we build a strategy around amplifying those advantages? Because that's what's going to give you a competitive edge. That's what's actually going to help you carve out a piece of the market in how you do that. So when you're looking at crafting that strategy, answering those same questions of why are we different? If we win, what would that look like? And what needs to be true in order for us to win? What are those things that we need to have? Or we need to have a large user base, or we need to have high transaction value, or we need to be able to make sure that we can transfer funds at 1/10 of the price of traditional things. Great. What does traditional remittances cost, or transfers cost? What does our rails look like, and how are we actually going to get there? And then once you've got there, the action plan of how are you going to deliver on those USPs, on those competitive edges, on those differentiators, which order are you going to focus on them? Which ones are you going to tackle first? How are you actually going to get there? Is the action plan, or the master plan, or the strategy of how you're going to achieve that vision, mission, and your differentiator, how you're going to execute on it. So does that answer your first part of the question? Do you want to get more specific? If you give me more context, I can get more specific.
No, I think it does. Yeah, it actually does help me. Yeah.
Okay. And then to your second question, I've spent a fair bit of time in the crypto world. I was actually in the 2009 blockchain accelerator in Techstars in New York. Then we flew over to New York and spent 4 or 5 months in New York, and got access to right into the crypto world with Ethereum core devs were mentors, and we got investors from some early blockchain people. And I've been in crypto since 2015, 2016. So not massively so, but tinkering with it. And I understand the tech really well. I've built a Google Analytics for smart contracts. And so, yeah, I've done a fair bit around that stuff. To be honest, I think crypto is just a tech. It's just a tech platform. There's some inherent advantages to that. But I think too many people in crypto are too focused on the shiny tech and not focused enough on the utility of why that's actually better. How does it actually make a user's life better? So if you look at, no one cares whether you're on a SQL or a Mongo database. Like, no one cares. The people writing the code care because you'll access data differently, but nobody else really cares. And in fact, if using the one is so much worse for your user, like so much more difficult than the other, it's going to be a worse user experience. Not like then people care because it sucks. And most things with crypto is like to try and transfer funds. Like if I want to transfer funds to you right now, and you have a DAI wallet, and I'm sitting with like a Tether or something. How do I get it to you? And it needs multiple jumps and multiple wallets. And like, how do I get money out of my credit card into an exchange and then transfer it across to different wallets and then exchange, and the fees and everything's like not transparent because it's not in proper currencies and it's super confusing. So I think the problem to fix with crypto is UX. And if you can make it happen seamlessly so that people don't even know it's crypto, it's just a tenth of the cost. I'm sending money to you is what I really want to do, but it's a tenth of the cost. That's all I care about. I don't care which language or the frameworks and stuff you're using. So I think crypto has a bit of a use case problem around user problems instead of around tech problems, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Thank you, Roger.
Yeah, so I'm a crypto realist instead of optimist, but I think there's a lot of promise there. I think it's way less than what a lot of the crypto bros will pump on you. Maybe let me ask you one quick question, just to your first question. What is it about your product? Like, what does it look like when you win? Like, what needs to be true for you to win? What is the 2 or 3 things that you have to get right? And if you get those things right, you'll dominate the problem space you're trying to solve.
So I think the first thing is getting people to understand crypto, because I feel like the basic person is still very confused about what crypto really is and how it's beneficial to them.
Why do they need to know about crypto?
That's a good question. So the thing is, okay, so for more context into what I'm doing, the transition I'm about to make is I have a task and it's around this: build XYZ for like a growth plan, right? So I'm not really inside the business. So I'm trying to get inside the business. So I'm just trying to gather as much information about crypto. And personally, from my own experience, one thing that bothers me about crypto is I don't know how secure it is. That's number one. Number two, it just seems very complex from the basic transaction. I've not seen anybody that has simplified it. So nobody really wants to get there. And then number three, from a Nigerian perspective, there are a lot of regulations around it. So it's harder to maybe set up a company and have to fight the government to get your permits or something like that. Yeah.
So on those 3 things, the crypto is incredibly secure if it's complex to use. If you're working with like private and public keys and using them correctly, it gets complex to use, but it's incredibly secure. A lot of people have tried to simplify that by managing the keys for you, but then it's less secure. So it's like, that's really the trade-off, is your first 2 questions is the trade-off of crypto, not your keys, not your coins. But if it is your keys, it's a pain in the ass to use. That's the problem. So it can be incredibly secure. I think in Nigeria specifically, the CBN has actually recently, towards the end of last year, started relaxing some of the regulations and the limitations on crypto and Web3 stuff. So I think the CBN is actually becoming more friendly towards it. Now is a good time to be looking at that sort of stuff. But it comes down to fundamentally the question of, like, people don't want a hole in the wall. They want a picture hung. It was like, as people don't want to drill, they don't want a hole in the wall, they want the picture hung. So they need to buy the drill, they need to drill the hole to hang the picture. But actually what they want is to hang the picture. And when you think about like most crypto use cases, people want to send money, people want to earn money or save money or invest or like stake their money in order to get like invest money out. So it's like making money is through one things. The mechanism of how I make that money is either through staking or through investing in new coins, like discovery of new coins. And the action, the drill that I need is to actually put money into a wallet, and I need to run on DAI or Ethereum or whatever it is that I'm actually looking, or Polkadot, or whatever the platform is that you're running on the tech. But people don't care about the tech, and they don't care about the mechanism. They care about the value. They care about the output that they get. They want the picture hung. And so in your use case, try and identify what that picture is, And then you can have multiple different ways of drilling a hole or multiple different ways of hanging a picture. There are plenty of ways of hanging a picture. And each of those ways have multiple different tools that you could use in order to do that. So think about it from that perspective first, of like the non-tech, non-crypto use case of how do I add value into people's lives? And the answer is never crypto. Crypto is just a mechanism on how you might get there.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good luck.
All right, thank you, Rija, for such a wonderful answer. And I think we have, someone was actually raising up their hand the other time. I don't know if the person is still available. Kamala, okay. While we wait to take Bukumi's question, Bukumi, please go ahead. Don't worry, go ahead with your question. I'm going to be taking the question and answer section just after that. Bukumi, go ahead with your question.
Okay. Hi. Good evening. Just joined in, and I'll say I appreciate the way you answer the questions. So my question is, I got into PM, and I have about 2 years of relative experience, and I'm interested in the financial technology sector or industry. So my current experience just has to do with the general software development management, with no particular industry insights. Or I'm in the agriculture sector now. So my question is, how do I go into the fintech from your point of view?
It's an interesting question. I think there's 2 ways to go about it. Well, there's a third way. Apply to fintech roles is step number 1. But I'm assuming you're doing that already. The second thing is that fintech is one of those technologies that it is everywhere. There's financial technology in agriculture. So it's less of like a standalone, like there's some pure fintech like banking and lending and those sort of things, but often there's an overlap between lending in agriculture, or fintech, or insurance in agriculture, or wallets or payments or marketplaces in agriculture. So a softer landing is, if you're already in agriculture, is to find either a way of including that in what you're already doing, or moving to another sort of ag tech business that has more financial aspects to it, and is dealing with financial terms and wallets or payments or insurance or some aspect behind that. So that would be the one way. The other is to just start researching, reading more things about how financial markets work, how fintechs work, what does the payment flow look like. If you go into like Visa or MasterCard, they've got tons of content out there on like payment flow from like card issuers and card acceptance and merchants, and where the fees come off. And there's lots of writing about that. So like, even if you're not in it right now, think about the type of company that you want to work for and which flavor of fintech they're in. Like, it's quite broad. It could be crypto like Adera. It could be insurtech type stuff. It could be in savings. It could be in investments. It could be in like a number of different angles. And then just try and research and learn about that, how much about that industry you can learn. A lot of the PM skills are going to be transferable, but what you're not going to have is to know, like, if you don't know anything about like what is a payment gateway? How do you integrate a payment gateway? What are the main payment gateways in Africa that work in the different markets? How do you choose which one you should work off? Or what are the pros and cons or trade-offs of that? Like, if you try and apply to a fintech company and you can't even answer the basic things of understand where they fit into their competitors and the pros and cons, then you're very unlikely to get that job. But if you want to go work for Stripe, go research every single freaking payment company in there, understand, like, do a competitor analysis of how they all differ from each other, understand the flows, the ease of use of integrations, try and speak to some developers that have worked with Stripe or worked with one of these other providers and seen what they do. And then doing that research and competitor analysis, it's going to help you give you a better understanding of the ecosystem, how it works, the technical aspects of like money transfers and the issues and fees and that sort of stuff. But at the same time, when you rock up at that interview, you're immediately dropping names and terminology and that sort of stuff. And you might not be in fintech, but you'll sound so much more like a fintech native than someone who hasn't done that kind of research. So yeah, just to reiterate those 3 things. One is, like, just start applying for fintech jobs. You might land one anyway. The second one is to try and find a way to bring fintech into what you're doing currently, or move to a company or a part of your company that might be dealing more with fintechy type stuff, wallets, payments, insurance. There's a number of marketplaces, those sort of things. And the third thing you can do is just start researching how fintech works, how money flows work, like how does MasterCard work, how does Visa work, or like if you want to get into remittances, like how does international money flow works, like what are the bank codes and where are they actually used, and what are international remittance rails, and how does Wise compare to Transfer Union with fees, and what are the checkpoints or the stopping points and how the money actually flows. All of that information is online if you want to go research it. So I would just pick an area where you feel like you'd be most interested in. And even if you apply to Stripe and you've mostly done research in remittances, if you can go pretty deep and name drop and show understanding of the remittance flows, when you get to a credit card company, they're going to be like, you clearly haven't done much in credit card, but you understand remittances, so you'll learn it fast enough. And they'll kind of give you the benefit of the doubt. Whereas if you only come and you're like, I only know agriculture, I don't know anything about fintech, then they're just going to think that the hurdle's going to be too high, and you haven't even tried to meet them where they are. So that would be my advice.
Thank you. I'll take this into serious consideration. Thank you very much.
Cool. If anyone has follow-on questions, please feel raise your hand, and we can create a bit more of a chat. That doesn't have to be I don't think I'm knocking these all up the park. So if it's follow-on questions or uncertainty, keep.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so finally, I'm going to be taking a question from Oyindamola. I think she couldn't speak, so she just dropped the question on the question and answer section. The question goes thus. She says, she said her network is really bad. She said, I'm just transitioning into product management, and I was wondering if there is a roadmap for product management, or do I just get certified and start applying for jobs?
Cool. I'm not necessarily the best person to ask this. I think there are a lot of people that are closer to where you're at that can probably ask it better. So this is a great question for the forums or the chats, just by the way. I'll take a stab at it. The problem is I never really got into product management, so a lot of this is me just thinking through how would I do it today if I were to do it. I have been a PM or building products for about 13 years. So it's been a while as well since I was at that level. But I don't think that part of the problem with product management is this really broad category. It can be managing dev teams, it could be product design, it could be product operations or analytics or metrics, it could be like analyzing data, it can be like user research, it can be customer support and thinking about how you solve for that, it can be project-based or more project management type stuff, it can be like product strategy and around like business strategy and fundraising and pricing and modeling and COGS analysis and financial analytics. It can be so many things. And so when you're trying to get in, it's very difficult to learn a little bit about all of that stuff. And typically, most companies, the product management role is slightly different in every company. Everyone has a slight bias towards they need a PM to do more research, or they need it to be more consumer facing, or they need it to be more of a technical PM to do systems integrations, even at the associate level, like even at an internal associate level. And so that's kind of how I would typically look at that. And so if you think about it in that sense, how do you stand out in that scenario? And the short answer is, if you're a little bit of everything, you're going to be a lot of nothing, and you're not really going to stand out. And if they're looking for a slightly more analytics PM or someone who's more experienced integrating with customers, and you've got a little bit of that, somebody who does have a bit more of that is going to stand out for those types of roles. So I would typically recommend trying to go deep on a very narrow section, like get great at Scrum, Kanban, like project delivery, team, like a technical team management, writing user stories or documentation, or get good at the analytics and the deep data side, or the design and research side, and kind of rather try and build that. Once you land your first job and have a couple of years under your belt, then start expanding out into all different areas until you can find an area that you resonate with, and you then start focusing on the type of specialization of PMs when you start coming together. So my typical advice at a very high level is to try and build it like a Christmas tree. So you go super deep very early on, and you're not going to get most roles, but the ones that you are a match for, you're going to be head and shoulders above everybody else. So go super deep and narrow for the first year or two of your career. Then start from year 3, year 4, start branching out into trying a whole bunch of different things and moving a bit more around PM, and gaining much more broader skills, and then start to focus and build like deep domain expertise as an innovation product manager or technical product manager or generalist product manager or like a fintech or Web3 product. Like find some kind of specialization that when you get like in 8 to 10 years of your career, you can start really standing out to be the best in the world at launching new products in Africa or launching Web3 stuff in this. Like, what is that kind of differentiator that you're going to position yourself at? So I have written a post on this. I'll just throw in throw it in the chat about building your PM career. Basically, try and build it like a Christmas tree. Is the high level advice, but yeah, this is coming from someone who is a couple of years out of where you're at. So chatting to other peers who've just got through that, how people have landed their first role or two, is definitely worth chatting to.
All right.
Thumbs up.
Yeah.
To answer your question.
Yeah, thank you, Reja. Oyindamola, I believe you got the reply and you put it to use, right? So there's another question from someone here, anonymous. The person is anonymous. So the question is, from your years of experience, is there a difference working in a team that has program managers and all product managers, like literally? So is there a difference between a team that works with program managers and teams that work with product managers?
Yeah, so I'm going to assume that a program manager and a product manager are the same role. I think they are slightly different. Typically, you get a program manager more in the media space, entertainment and media space, and project management and other stuff. Project management in more sort of generalist or BA type space. But for the sake of answering this question, there's nuances, but I'm going to assume they're the same thing. The biggest difference between a program or project manager and a product manager is that a program or project management is purely focused on execution and delivery. You've already decided what you're going to build, and you're just project managing. You're coordinating everybody. You're making sure everyone has a deadline, that they know what they need to do, that they've got the resources they need in order to execute when they need to execute it, that they're that they're releasing on time, that they're hitting their deadlines. You're basically just helping get the stuff down the pipes. Like you're making sure that the things are flowing, projects are running, deadlines are being hit, coordination is happening, people are talking, the people who need to communicate are communicating, and they're kind of getting along with it. Now, that is one part of what product managers do, but it kind of misses the point of the value of a product manager as a whole. So I'm just trying to find this. Erickson is. Let me just get images. Sorry, there's an image I'm just trying to find you. Yes, there we go. Open image in new tab. Erik Erikson. Let me share my screen again just to run through this. Where is that? So this is, oh, that's very tiny. Anyway, let me see if I can find a bigger version of that. So this is the best definition I have of how a product manager is different to a project manager. So product manager is playing with the dichotomy of these three aspects. You're focused on how we deliver value to customers. Are we delivering the right kind of value? What problems do customers have? How do we understand that value? How do we interview, research, deciding what to build? But we need to deliver value to customers in a way that makes money for the business. And so you're compromising that. You can't just build what customers want. You need to build it in a way that you can actually extract value, that the business can be sustainable, that you can make money, and then understanding the technical constraints, which is the running of the teams and the delivery. That's the code bases you have. It's the code assets you have or software assets you have. It's coordination of the team, of adding new features and actually building the solution that delivers the value to the customers while extracting the value for the business. And so where project and program managers are purely focused on that bottom circle, on what you're building, who's building what, when's it getting delivered, that sort of thing. But they don't go into the defining of what are the problems that our customers have? Are we solving the right problems? What are new problems that we could be solving for them? And you're not thinking about it in the business sense of how do we differentiate ourselves? How do we become unique? How do we beat our competitors in this space? What could we do to be able to increase our margins? What could we do to be able to charge double what we currently charge? Like, how do we position the business differently and solve and use that to filter which customer problems you should focus on? And then the technical delivery just becomes the way in which you ship that. So a program or project manager is very much just focused on the delivery side, but they're not focused on either the integration of the business strategy and funding and COGS and unit economics, and they're not focused on the customer research, understanding, designs, feedback loops, metrics, analytics, those sorts of things. So are we solving the right problems, and how well are we solving those problems? And so typically there's a tension there that program management was just the bottom piece around delivery and not the strategic part of the other two, understanding how you create and capture value. Emmanuel, follow-up questions there?
Oh, thank you. My question is, what's now the difference between a product manager and a product owner
Sure.
in an agile setting?
Yeah, so a product owner is a name given to a person who wears a certain hat in a product in a Scrum team. So it's specific to Scrum. It's not even Agile. It's not even Kanban. It's like in Scrum you have a Scrum master, a product owner, and a different thing. That's where it comes from. People have taken that term and used it in very different contexts. So people have taken it, and corporates love doing this because they're all trying to be agile, but actually running waterfall. So they just take the language from agile, from Scrum, and then apply it to different circumstance. But so the way it's typically misinterpreted is the product owner is sort of more of a business, like a department head, if you will, or like this mini CEO of this product or this of card payments or of mobile apps or of whatever it is. And the product managers are then more around like the delivery and coordination and writing the scopes and interviewing customers and actually doing the work. So the product owner becomes more of the strategic piece and finances and budgets, and the product managers are more around delivery, research, like actually doing the work of that, like putting together the spreadsheets and doing basically the grunt work. Like that's just how a lot of companies interpret it. It's not actually where that word comes from. It's not actually what that means. In many companies, they call those people product managers or senior product managers, or like a CPO would kind of be that. That's exactly the role that I play in my company, and I'm CPO. Would I call myself a product owner? Probably not. That would seem a bit weird. But in a company where you have multiple, like a bank that has multiple different departments or divisions, you might have like a department head that has 2 or 3 products under it, and each of those products has a product owner, and each of those product owners then have a team of product managers that would deliver against it. But that's more just how the terminology has been warped. It's not traditionally where it comes from. It's not the history of the word, if that makes sense. Emmanuel, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Does that resonate with you? I mean, would you agree with that? Do you disagree? Do you?
I agree with all you said.
Okay. Okay. I'm not always right, guys, too. So I also make mistakes, and I don't have context, and there's things like there's a lot of nuance behind these answers. I just give my gut response, but there's definitely I can be wrong too. So feel free to push back.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thanks, Roger. Thank you, Manuel. And I think we have another question here. I'm back to the chat now, Roger. So I'm picking questions from the chat here. So we have a question here from Bukumi. I want to skip. We had a question we didn't answer. That's the question on the sheet. So I think,
yes.
Yeah, maybe should we go ahead and do that now,
Sure.
or should we skip? Okay. So for the question for that question, the question is actually, I am a business analyst at the moment. However, with little PM experience, I've gathered from my trainings, bootcamps, and internships, it seemed a bit difficult to convince recruiters that I can be a PM, especially as PM is closely related to business analysis. What could I be doing wrong? Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah, so the person is a BA, a business analyst, and is wanting to get into PM, and recruiters aren't taking them seriously as a PM because they're not showing that they understand the difference well enough. That's kind of how I interpret that. And so the question is, well, how is a BA different to a PM, product manager? Quick, in the chat, anyone, fast fingers, any quick answers to come through? What do you guys reckon? How is a business analyst different to a product manager? Any fast fingers?
Anybody?
Any quick thoughts? Anyone want to unmute themselves and jump in with an answer? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah, so I think for business analysts, they possibly don't have a lot of interactions with like other people. Of course, they interact with people, but product managers really have to work with dynamic teams, right? So maybe that's something that there's a difference between them. Other than that, one similarity is that they both work with data and making decisions, and that's really key in every product that you're trying to build.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that point of those 3 circles, the BA is very much around how do we define the technical scope of what we need to build. And there's some analytics and metrics and stuff going into that, but they generally don't have the strategic. They might do a bit of like, how might we solve this problem? But they're not really picking the problem in the first place. They only analyze things that are there. It's much more fact-finding, writing documentation, and ultimately to generate a scope. To make an analyst of like, how do we solve this problem? Write down all the details, put it into a scope document, give it to a developer to deliver. So that's kind of like a project manager is making sure the coordination happens. The business analyst writes the spec, gives it to the project manager, and the project manager delivers all of that. A product manager may do a lot of scope writing, they may do a lot of coordination, but they also work on, like, as they get more senior in particular, they work the strategic level of, are we actually solving the right problem? How do we do that? Typically, a business analyst isn't going to be interviewing customers, isn't going to be trying to do a qualitative analysis. They'll mostly just do quantitative analysis, desk research, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of nuance around the strategic layer that a product manager should bring. The strategic layer as well as the team management, coordination, delivery, because typically your business analysts aren't the ones running Scrum, testing whether the developers actually building what they were supposed to build, giving them feedback, helping developers when they get stuck with context, and helping them troubleshoot and change the plan on the fly. Business analysts typically don't engage with developers at all. They write the spec and then they throw it over the wall. So understanding where those differences lie, and I think what this person is not doing clearly enough in the interview is showing, look, this is where my background comes from. I'm really strong at this piece, but I'm very aware that this is how this new role is different. And these are things that I've done, or instances when I've gone over and above my BA roles to start doing more things like a product manager, and show an understanding of what the product management role entails beyond just the BA, and showing a willingness to learn and grow into that space, and being intentional about saying, I already can do these things. I don't need another business analyst role. I'm wanting to learn X, Y, and Z, and product management role is going to give that to me, and here are the steps I'm taking to try and give me that knowledge before I get that role. So if you can position that as to how they fit in, it's going to position you a lot better to actually land a product management job, role, at least at entry level stuff.
All right. Thank you, Richard. And I'll move to the next question. There's a question from, I'm trying to see, so I won't skip any question actually. Okay, so there's a question from Bukumi. I feel like you've answered this before, probably not on this call, but I will still ask. So the question is from Bukumi. My question is, how can I go into fintech industry as a PM with 2 years 2 years of experience?
Yeah, was that the ag tech? Was that one who answered me? 2 years in ag tech and want to get into fintech?
Yeah. So
yeah.
Yeah. So let's move to Anne Christopher. So there's a question from Anne Christopher that says, I'm a project manager trying to gain product knowledge, but the more I try to learn, the more I get bored and gradually losing interest. Is it okay, or is it okay, or is product management not my team? Any advice for me on this?
Yeah. So product management is a lot more softer, more fluffy things beyond project management. Project management is around delivery, coordination, communicating. Has everyone got what they need? Are we shipping on time? Who's stuck? Who's ahead of schedule? Who's behind schedule? Product management is a lot of that, but also a lot of like stakeholder management and like higher communication and trying to work out strategy and are we solving the right problem? And when something comes up, how do you change the plan around those problems? So it is a lot more fuzzy and does require a very different skill set to the project management. And look, there's a role for project management. There are plenty of companies that need project managers, not product managers. They're not totally those scenarios. So if you're not enjoying the more fluffy, fuzzy bits around product management, and you prefer the more sort of project deliverables, black and white, pick a roadmap, work in a Gantt chart, work out where the dependencies are pushing things out, communicate with people that you need to, like, hey, you're not hitting the deliverables. If that's where you prefer and that's where your strengths are, and you don't like this coordination, you don't want to go interviewing to try and work out, are we solving the right problem? If that question feels debilitating to you, like, then yeah, product management is probably not your thing. That's totally okay. It takes all types. So it means you'll work in a certain type of industry, in a certain type of space. I think product management is a lot more sexy nowadays. So it's kind of being, everyone's trying to get on that bandwagon, probably more people than should. But there's definitely roles for project managers as well. If that's what you're enjoying more, stay there. Everyone needs to be able to deliver something on time. That's a real skill.
Yeah. I think I get that. And I believe, if you're on the call, I believe you have the answer to the question, right? So there's a question from Adiriola that says, hello, Roger. Thanks for taking time to do this. My question is, as a new AI PM, that's artificial intelligence PM, how would you approach working with ML engineering and growing the AI product adoption rate to ensure profitability? Okay, let me.
Those are great questions.
Yeah. Everything is really just long.
It's like, what is the purpose of life and why are we here? Is basically what you're asking me. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, a business is here to make money. Like, that's what we do. If you're not making money, it's a hobby. As plain and simple as that. So what you need to think about is, like, how do you make money? And the question is, like, you make money by solving people's problems in efficient ways. So you need to think about value creation and value extraction. And so if you look at those journeys, like, those are the two circles. Of those three circles, it's the two at the top. How do you create value for customers, and how do you extract value in revenue or profit or whatever it is for the business? And so, like, the way you've asked the question, you're starting with, like, how do I work with the engineers in order to grow the AI product, in order to increase the adoption rate, in order to ensure profitability. I would start with adoption. How do I build something people love? How do I build something that's useful to people? How do I build something that solves a real problem? And then work with your customers to understand what that looks like, and then work with the engineers to build the solution to those problems, to build something that's useful in solving those problems, and something that people will actually adopt to start getting that. Find 10 users that use you every day, and once you found those 10, find the next 40, or find the next 50, find the next 100 as you start scaling through that. Once you get to those points, you'll then think about how to, like, once I can get a small number of people to use this, you can then think about, how do I find more people? But don't try and grow the product until you've found out what's actually useful about the product and build something that's useful to at least a small set of people. So that's the first step. When it gets to profitability, until you know that you can build something useful and you can grow it, or until you know that you're solving a real problem, you can deliver a solution to that problem, you can find other people and you can grow that thing to have the problem, only then does it make sense to start thinking about profitability. Because, like, specifically in startup land, if you're running a venture capital type business, or somebody that's raising external funding, should definitely focus much more aggressively on those others. If you're trying to self-fund or bootstrap or build a more traditional business, then you should probably focus on profitability a little bit earlier and start to think about what your unit economics are. But it doesn't help to focus on profitability if you're not really clear on the problem, what that solution is, and how you're going to grow it. So I would try and solve it in that order first and work very closely with your teams on that. And I think what's important, like a big shift that I've tried to get at my current company is like developers' value should be measured in like how elegantly they deliver value to customers, not in how many lines of code they write. And often that means developers shouldn't be writing code. They should either be writing less code and deleting code, or they should be sitting with customers to understand their problem. So there's nothing more powerful than having a developer in the customers or watching a customer try and use the product and just like banging their head against the wall. And the developer going, oh my God, I can fix that right now, and just dive in the code, make the fix, deploy it, and say, please try again. Like that is really great in the early stages of the product when you're trying to build it. So identify like, why would people use this? How would they use it? What problem does it solve for people that they can't solve otherwise? And how do I find 5 to 10 people who use that product, who use that, and then kind of double down on that? And so that's kind of the focus that I would look at. There was a really great Lenny's podcast on this recently that I listened to. It was towards the end of last year. I'll find it and drop it in the chat, around building and launching new products. Like really, really phenomenal. The guy, yeah, the one story he has, he like helped like people find workers, like temporary workers. So helping restaurants find wait staff and helping construction sites find workers, and ended up landing, and they ended up like bootstrapping the problem. And the first year that they actually started charging for it, he clocked $30 million in revenue because it was such a massive problem, and they're already solving it in such an interesting way. I'll try and find it. Oh, this was it. The guy from Silicon Valley podcast. Silicon Valley Product Group. With Christian Idioti, Nigerian. Yeah, I just dropped the link in the chat. Give that a listen if that's what you're interested in. Trying to how you solve that. That is a really interesting problem to solve. But his was some of the best advice I've heard in a long time.
Yeah, I can attest to that. Thank you very much, Roger. And
sorry, maybe I'll say one thing on that. A quick thing about AI, sort of the same thing as Web3. That's just the technology. Like that's the drill. Forget about the drill. Forget about the whole. Focus on the picture. Like, what is the picture that people need hanging?
Thank you very much. I still want to take one more question, but I think we have just 3 minutes more. So let's still take one more question. And for those of us who our question cannot be attended to, you can, still go to Slack channel and drop the question there and tag Roger. Or the other option is that watch out for a link that is going to be sent to the Slack group for you to lodge your question for the next group mentorship session. So anyone that you prefer, actually, just watch out, and we'll get those questions answered as well. So there's a question here from Hyperion. Okay, sorry, not Hyperion. Let me see. Okay, I think I've actually attended to.
There was the one in the Q&A.
Yeah, then there's one in the Q&A section. So
yeah, how do entry-level managers build a portfolio to land their first job?
Yeah.
Cool. So very quickly in 2 minutes, like don't try and build an entire product end to end for your portfolio. It's less about that. It's more about showing that you have a real skill in thinking and doing one thing, or understanding one tool or one framework, and rather build 2 or 3 different portfolio pieces around that. So think about doing a product break, a teardown, which is basically just use a product, take screenshots of all the steps, leave commentary on what you like, what you don't like, do a user empathy map, like what makes you happy, what makes you sad at each of the steps, what do you like, reverse engineer it into like a flow chart of what are all these different screens, how they relate, how the menu structures work, do a little like competitor analysis could be another thing that you do, of like look at one competitor and say like, how do I get loans from Osako versus this versus some other provider like Black Copper or whatever it is, and how do you actually weigh those up against each other? So for each of those, like walk through the journey of like, what is the onboarding journey of Brass? What is the onboarding journey of PiggyVest? What is the onboarding journey of Kuda Bank? And take screenshots and pros and cons. What do you like? What do you not like? Who's best in class? Doing that kind of analysis, like any project of any of those things that I've mentioned would be the type of thing that if you put 3 or 4 of those together, even if they're different products or different things, that would make the most sense. Can I send your product teardown to the company? Sorry, is that it? I have done some product teardowns before of just like, I do this. I mean, share a product with me, and I basically just run through step-by-step recording a video saying, I like this, I don't like this looks broken, I don't understand why I have to click here and not there. Like that's like just a bit of feedback of running through it. So I've done those in video form if people want like portfolio feedback. So if you have a portfolio and you're like, hey, I did this little project, feel free to share it with me. I record a free Loom video, so it has to be less than 5 minutes will be my response, and I'll do that. The Google product teardown can be shared with the team at Google. Yeah, and then the one thing that helps a lot when you're trying to build a portfolio is to specifically try and build something for your portfolio that's going to help you land a job at the company that you're interested in. So if you want to work at Flutterwave and you've got like, hey, I've done this competitor analysis of Flutterwave. There's like 4 other competitors and how you stack and like what the costing, the delivery costs of all these are the same item across these 4 different platforms cost. I've done this competitor analysis, and you contact Flutterwave and say, hey, Flutterwave, I've done this analysis. I'd love your feedback on, can I chat to a PM about where I got it wrong or how I could improve this? Hey, by the way, I'm looking for a job. They're far more likely to hire you than the other 100 people who've just applied without any kind of context to it. So if you do want to work at a particular company, do the research, competitor research, and do the product breakdown, product teardown, or do something that is relevant to that person and use that to reach out to them. And if they don't have a job for you, maybe one of their direct competitors do, because that product teardown or product competitor analysis is probably relevant to them as well.
Thank you very much for that answer, Roger. And I think that will bring us to the end of this session for today. Thanks everyone who joined. This was really a fantastic session. I like when, everything is kind of directly addressed accordingly. One of the key takeaways of today's mentorship session was the fact that all of the questions that Roger gave an answer to were so specific, and you could really, really relate those answers to those questions. Thank you everyone again for joining. Thank you, Roger, for taking out time out of a busy schedule to do this again with us. And we look forward to the next one, just like I always say.
Every 2 weeks?
Yeah, every 2 weeks. And of course, the community activity still goes on. So on Saturday, we are going to have, our check-in call happening, and, subsequently events will also be coming up. So please be around for all of these events, and we look forward to like seeing you next time. Thank you so much, Roger, and let's have a nice time. Everybody, please, as you're leaving the meeting, just appreciate Roger. Say thank you, Roger. Use thumbs up. Use all of those fantastic emoji that you can use to just say thank you, Roger. Thank you. Bye. All right. Bye-bye.
Cool. Cheers, guys.
Yeah, cheers.